Hey Visionaries, welcome back to the Your Biggest Vision Show. I am your host, Leah, and I'm very excited to have Aimee Cabakoff with us here today. Hi, Aimee.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Great.
Good, thanks for being here.
I'm so excited.
So, for those of you listening, Aimee is the Instagram mastermind and um, model, basically, behind her really incredible Instagram, Sustainably by Aimee. And she's going to tell us all about her business and her Instagram account and how she got started. But she is a leading figure in the world of sustainability as an influencer. She's done something really, really cool with her brand and her platform. And I'm excited to hear from her about it. She's also in my mastermind, and I've seen her build her business behind the scenes as well. She is a great businesswoman, and she's just really driven, and we're really lucky to have her today. So thanks again, Aimee. And
Thank you.
yeah, of course. Thank you. I guess I'd love to just hear when you were like in high school, so you're from Ohio, right?
hmm
When you were in high school, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
It's funny. It actually had nothing to do with entrepreneur business or social media. I actually hated it. I hated having to put my life on a platform where people had to follow it. I thought it was really silly, and I'm quite a private person. So I actually just loved the fashion industry. I loved the fact that you could be so creative in such a broad space. And so I knew I wanted to work in fashion, and I wanted to help just keep the mold of, you know, seasons changing, but styles are always repeating. And I loved it. I went to college for it. I went and was at the University of Arizona in retailing and consumer science. And I started, internships at places like Victoria's Secret and Chanel, and it was awesome. But I just started to feel like it wasn't really where I wanted to be. I'm not a 9 to 5er. I sat at that desk and I just felt trapped. And that's probably very similar to how a lot of entrepreneurs feel. But I also felt like I wasn't really having so much of an impact in a positive light, because fashion and everything had been changing so much. And it didn't actually really become clear about what I wanted to do until just actually a year ago. So from the time I was moving around the US, I was working in marketing, and then I moved overseas to Australia, which is where I was still very lost. A beautiful place, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I kind of took I'll just go into fashion, I'll see what comes. And again, I felt very trapped. So I actually moved out of that space and moved into personal training and fitness and nutrition. I loved helping people. I loved knowing that everyone had their own routine with nutrition and fitness, and it was a lifestyle. It wasn't just a job from 9 to 5. It was really, it started at like 4 a.m., but I
Right.
loved it. And
Wait, so I'm going to pause you really quick. What brought you
sure,
to Australia?
I was in a relationship, and
Okay. It was
that is,
not work.
it was not work. It was a relationship, but I also was very intrigued by living abroad. I never
Okay.
got to travel. So
Okay. So did you go straight there from college?
no, I dabbled around in other places in America. I basically
Okay.
graduated from the University of Arizona and was like, I'm not ready to go into corporate world. So I moved to Miami and I tried it out there for I think for about a year. Great place, a lot of hustle, a lot of vacation mentality. And I realized it wasn't for me. And then after that, I moved to New York, and I am glad I did the New York trip. It was one of those that I'd always wondered what it would like to be in New York. It chewed me up and spit me out. And I was like, New York not for me either. But I'm okay to admit that. So
It's
it,
not for, yeah, at
no,
least you tried and now you know, and you never have to wonder.
exactly. That is actually one of my like, I hate living with what if.
Yeah.
And then doing long distance with a relationship, I was just tired of it. I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? Why not just try Australia? I've heard great things. It's so beautiful and tropical, and there's worse places to move. So I just picked up my bags and I moved, and I was there for 3 years. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay. So when did you start your Instagram account?
I started it when I was actually in Miami.
Okay.
My social media was actually more for my modeling and marketing in just the bikini life. It's plain and simple. I love being at the beach. Lived in Miami. It was very easy to do. In the modeling world, you needed to have a presence. You needed to have a following. and I didn't care how I got it. So I just did the easy route, and I just put my life on social. I put my bikini on social, and the numbers started to grow. And it was great because people were taking me more seriously. And then when I moved over to Australia, it grew like quickly, because it's almost like, oh, what's over there? Who's over there? What is all the work that's going on?
Right.
And yeah, it made it very easy for me to connect with other creatives, other photographers, and start to really transition from this modeling side to more of a fitness, nutrition, beachy. So it kind of came with me.
Cool.
I feel like social media you can be very ADD with it. You can go like, I want to do this and I want to do this. And
I love that you're sharing this, because, you do have a big social media account, and it sounds like you have kind of allowed it to grow with you. And I think when I work with my Scale Your Side Hustle, students that are in the earlier days, they will go into, and I did it too, this sort of like paralysis of how what you're posting is going to indicate what your brand's going to be. And all the time I'm like, you actually can change more than you think. You really can, because people aren't necessarily following your message. They're following you. And so, as you sort of change and evolve, people are going to be more flexible with you. And I think it's great that you're sharing that, because you're living proof that you can have a big following and still sort of be flexible with it. Yeah.
And I think it's important to know that, not people,
right.
It's a hard world, but if you just be authentic, that's where people see that, you're living your truest self.
Right. So when you were in Australia, did you work at a 9-to-5 at all?
I did. I worked for the first 2 years.
Okay. So when you left that, was it to go full-time with your Instagram account, or what was that process like?
It was actually to go full-time into personal training and nutrition.
Okay.
And the Instagram account, any of my social, was just as a backhand for that, because posting my workouts, posting my anything to do with my new job would have been a big help. So it was scary. I just cut the cord, and I just started really getting involved at the gym. I got hired on as a personal trainer, and then I just was like, this is it. I'm taking this full steam ahead. So
what was that decision like? You said it was scary. Walk us through it a little more.
It is, because that security that 9-to-5 does provide does make you feel like you have a routine every single day. The people I worked with were wonderful. I just knew I wasn't being the best myself in it. And when I decided to leave and pursue the social media side with the personal training, I knew I was going to have to work twice as hard, but I knew I'd be so much happier. And to me, that was more important.
So have you found that, what do you think is hard about social media and entrepreneurship that either you didn't know, or that you think a lot of people don't know?
It is way more than a 9-to-5, 9-to-7. I mean, it is a 24/7 hustle, and it is very important to not take it personally. There is a lot of talk right now about algorithms and just changes in dynamic, and everyone experiences it. And I used to take it very personally. I used to think, and I'm being honest, it used to mess with my mental health. And it actually took leaving to Australia, when I moved back home to America, to realize that there's so much more. Use it as a tool, but do not let it and what it is bringing you run your emotions in your everyday. And it took a while to get to that thought process, but I'm so much happier, and I actually enjoy it now. But the hardest part, I think, was just preparing that authentic you versus the, Instagram versus reality.
Right.
And a lot of people are seeing that the reality is so much better when you have that conversation. So it was a big learning curve for sure.
Right. I want to thank you for opening up about that, and I want to come back to your mental health journey with it. But first, let's go back to your transition from personal fitness. You leave Australia. Now your focus is not personal fitness.
No,
so walk us through
that
time a little bit.
I had to leave Australia for personal reasons, and at the time, I felt very lost, and I just started to see a little bit of sustainability and plastic-free living every once in a while in Oz. I moved over to Bali for a few months to just kind of refresh and regroup. And again, I started to see more options in different habits. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting because, you know, a lot of the times people think social media has to be travel, fitness, you have to be an author or something. You can't just, you know, take it with what you want. And when I moved back to America, I was like, what am I supposed to do now? I can't be that beach bum. My heart wasn't in fitness. I felt very lost. And I thought if I could try and just use my social media presence with what I had done in a more positive light, then that would be a great way for me to heal and for me to like show my journey with this healing process. So actually a year ago in 5 days, August 1st, I just decided I would change everything. I changed my name. I changed my focus. I just was like, I have had enough with this perfect life, with this, you know, look like me, be like me. There is nothing wrong with different directions people take it. But for the personal journey I was on, I needed it to mean more. And I just decided I wanted to start helping people change their habits with plastic-free living. I came back to America and I saw there was a lot of work to be done in a positive way. And I thought if I could be someone who could help that, then it would mean so much more to me to change one person's journey versus however many followers I had at the time. So that's where it started.
This is so inspiring to hear. And I love that you really decided that if you were going to put up with being a public figure or have a public platform, you were only going to do it in a way that felt really uplifting to you and aligning to you. So in 5 days, August 1st, you said it will be a year.
Yes.
Was there a lot of mind chatter around rebranding? Were you scared? How did you actually decide to do it? I know so many people go into perfectionism where they're like, I can't do it unless every single thing is set up. How did you push yourself?
It's funny. I was just talking to my mom and I was like, I feel like this could be something very new because it hadn't been tapped into as of yet. And I was like, I don't know the journey. I'm not sure how it's going to go. But I was like, I think that in itself is a lot more real. And I shared this with my Instagram stories. I said, you guys might see that I'm changing directions. I was like, I'm still a beach bum. I love the ocean, but it's my time to start protecting it. And I want you to be with me. And if you don't want to, go ahead and go. And I did lose quite a lot, which is fine with me because
I would know the real followers.
It does. And I started with social media. I just started incorporating a post or two here and there. My only advice was to just do it gradually. Don't just like delete everything and then be like, okay, I don't know where to go.
Right.
Just incorporate the gradual transition because anything in life can be a gradual transition. And, I changed the name. I dabbled with the name for a while because that is something that does. And I don't even remember how it came to me, but I wanted to have something catchy rhyme with Aimee. And then I felt sustainably Aimee. Sustainably, people will know exactly what they're coming to with my page. Aimee's who I am.
And I've always thought like, that her name rhymes with sustainably.
It worked so well. Yeah, so it was really exciting. And then I just started introducing myself to everyone. I talked to everyone. When people asked what I did, I said I share plastic-free living and eco-friendly habits. And the amount of people who were like, that's really different. I've never heard someone use their social media for that. And I was like, well, I just want to show people that everyone can be a part of this.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just a small niche on social that refers to people who love travel around Asia or working out at the gym 5 days a week. It is habits that all generations can change. Moms, kids especially. Yeah. So it's been really, really fun.
Well, what I love about what you've done is that, you know, you haven't abandoned your story or your beach bumness or your fitnessness even. And I think that that's so great because it does still speak to all those sort of classic niches that you see on Instagram, the travelers, the gym people or whatever.
Totally.
Doing it in a sustainable way. And so I think it's so relatable and you've just done a beautiful job, you know, kind of like keeping yourself in the arena, but doing so in a way that's really exciting for you and aligning and obviously a good influence. So I love that you've done this, and it's very exciting. It's been very exciting to see you do it.
Yes, I love that. And I always appreciate feedback when someone says something. I like comments, criticism. I mean, granted, I used to stand in barely anything in front of agents and get, told things that weren't warranted, but criticism is a way to constantly keep growing. And so I've actually been toying with the idea of moving more into just the conscious space. Plastic free has been a wonderful journey, and it's still going to be so relevant.
Right.
But I spoke with someone yesterday about how all of the habits we make in our day-to-day, in our work, in our workouts, in our food is a conscious decision. And I think it is very relevant. Like you said, I've kept the travel, I've kept the beach bum, but it's all more conscious. And that's where I think it's important to share it.
Yeah. And I think that that's why people relate to you so much, because it is the complexity of what you, Aimee, care about. And everyone has that voice. Everyone, has things they care about, but things they like to do and things they like to share. And you've encompassed it all really well.
Yeah.
Did you deal with any imposter syndrome when you decided to go as with more of a focus on environmentalism because you have more of a background in fashion?
Absolutely. And it's funny. I sometimes feel like I'm not qualified to do this. Like
really?
I shouldn't be, only because there's a lot of science behind sustainability.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hard facts and marine biologists and those who study it. And I love meeting them because I love to learn and educate. But I think habits changing is always going to feel like an imposter syndrome because you know something so well that you're trying to change even just the slightest. You'll think, who am I to change this? And it has happened. I've had to tell the little voice, like, shut up.
Is that how you do it? You're not welcome here.
I just say, it's okay to let that voice maybe be devil's advocate. I think that's really important, but I do not want it to feel like I can't move forward in a way. I had a really amazing opportunity happen last week that I haven't decided to share yet, but it will, I guess, help my credit. But in the same space, I was like, I'm not qualified to do this. And I'm like, well, no, you're coming from a different perspective. And that's the thing. I have friends in this space who've studied sustainability, who've been plastic free for 10 plus years. Doesn't mean I'm any more or less qualified. I'm just coming at it from a different journey and maybe a little bit more familiar for people because they don't want someone who's an expert because then they can't relate.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really do think that imposter syndrome is something we all struggle with. I have struggled with it a lot. I mean, I will say to those listening, I think it does get easier. I don't really struggle with it now because, I have seen my clients get results after results after results.
Absolutely.
But every time I try something new, I still struggle with it. So it never goes away. We're all in it together. I'm just thinking, like, as you're, sharing that, Aimee, I studied environmentalism, for everyone listening that doesn't know that about me. At NYU. And I'm thinking about like my professors, they could not be on Instagram. Like,
oh my God.
Would listen to them. They would be so awkward. Like it would just be, they couldn't do what you're doing is what I'm trying to say. So like they are meant to be doing the research and the science and the teaching and, really getting the facts behind it. And you to share it in a way that actually impacts people.
Exactly.
You're coexisting with them. I mean, you guys are actually helping each other. It's not like you need to have those credentials to do what they're doing because they also couldn't do what you do,
Exactly. And that was what I kept telling myself. Like, I'm the message, I'm taking the message and I'm moving it into a space that is a little bit more mainstream or is a little bit more in layman's terms, which is not a bad thing because people understand things differently. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to talk more about some of the terms that are greenwashed right now. And I think you're right. It really lends to a more audience-driven area when you can actually break it down and not use so much of the science behind it because people sometimes are like, oh, I don't need that. I'll deal with that later. And it's like, well, here's something that you can do that's not going to change your everyday, but is going to have a massive impact. And so it's been so exciting. And with the anniversary coming up, I've actually just been reflecting on just the change this year and just the opportunities. And it is everything happens for a reason in my book. And I've just learned that we can all do what we love if we're just a bit more conscious to it.
Beautiful. I want to just go back a little bit through kind of the thread of your story, and put you on the spot a little bit. But I know you mentioned that you had to really get aware of your own mental health as you were growing your Instagram and taking care of that and not taking things personally. And then also at the very beginning of our chat here, you said that, you loved living in New York because you don't like the what ifs. And to me, those are a little bit connected. It really shows that you're very conscious of how, you're approaching your life and taking care of your own goals. So how have you become, or what advice would you have for people that maybe feel a little bit overly emotional about social media? How have you managed your own mental health as an entrepreneur now?
It took a few mistakes, to be honest, to get to where I am now. My only advice would be, I treat it like a business. So that is my only 9 to 5. I am off social media Saturday morning until Sunday night at all. And it's funny because people are like, but those are the best days. And I'm like, not my audience. My audience is out in nature. My audience is out and about having a great time. They're disconnecting because they realize their mental health is way more important than that extra photo or that extra 10 followers and things, because it's an ebb and flow. And so I would say my advice would be to just get real with it and understand. A few weeks ago, there was a glitch. All social media was down for like 24 hours. In that moment, I realized this is more of a helping hand. This is not who I am. And it is definitely a day-to-day of, I do not pick up my phone right when I wake up in the morning. I set it apart for at least a half hour. I grab a cup of coffee. I sit, I meditate, I make my to-do list, and then I grab my phone, or then I start to get back into the groove of work. Because if we're obsessed with it constantly, we don't have boundaries, and boundaries are very important. When I was with my ex, one of our biggest rules was no phones at the table, no phones out at dates, no phones out at dinner, because having those boundaries makes you realize that there are so many other things that are important.
This is all such great advice. And I love just the importance, the simplicity, but not the easy advice of your business is a business. It is not you. And I think when you're an entrepreneur, especially when it's very related to your own life, I struggled with this. I felt like my self-worth was tied to how my business was doing. And that is a slippery slope. And I'm just really glad you brought it up, because I think, especially in the beginning, it can feel like you don't really realize that's happening, because you start getting small wins, like your first sale or your first 10,000 followers or whatever. And you're so excited about it. And that is good. It's good to celebrate those things. And I don't want to say otherwise, but I think that if you're not careful, that is training your brain to think that like you're deserving of praise because of milestones in your business. And that then can have the opposite effect, where you feel like you're deserving of criticism if things aren't going perfectly, or well 100%. In your business. And that's where it gets really dangerous. And so you have to remember that your business is a separate thing from yourself. And for anyone listening out there that is, maybe this is resonating with them, just some like practical tips I did to help me separate that was, make sure, right away, even if you guys are starting out, separate your business money from your personal money, because that can get messy. You can feel like if your business isn't, bringing in the money you want, then you don't have enough money. They need to be different things. I love your advice about not getting on email right in the morning, or also right not at night, because this is not your, it's not your life. And another thing I've had to do, which is not easy, because nowadays I'm finding that everyone wants to text, like coaches will want to text me, and even some of my friends will text me business stuff if some of them are entrepreneurs. And I've had to very much be like, I do not text about business at all. And I feel sometimes kind of bad and harsh saying that, but you have to have a phase in your life that's just your personal life. Otherwise there's no escape. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Boundaries.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And do you feel like, looking back, do you think that your history in fashion had anything to do with your interest in sustainability?
I think almost underneath it, it all relates. I mean, one of the biggest waste industries is fashion. And I hate saying that because we all love it. It's our personality. It's our style. But if we weren't honest about it, I mean, Fashion Week comes up every year, twice a year, 3 times if you're over in Europe. And when I used to be obsessed with those runways and seeing everything and then want to get that right off the runway, that's the fashion side. And then the sustainability side was like, well, hang on, you don't need that.
Right.
You can see that the people who are making those, are they being treated fairly? It all
Right.
goes together.
Right. Right.
And that's something I still struggle with. I'm only human. I have a wedding in 2 weeks and my brain goes, go buy a dress.
Right. Right.
I take a step back and I go, do you need to? Can you find something else that's a better opportunity? And I talk about this, you know, I'm very honest about this, this journey. I say we are all in this together. I recently just got back from Portugal and I was like, okay, I bought one thing for that trip to Portugal. To me, that's a win, because most people would buy a whole closet full and then be like, I have my days, I'm ready. And it's like, I didn't wear half my clothes.
Right. I didn't need this.
No. So I think having a background in fashion, understanding the marketing in fashion, understanding the trends is very, very relevant to sustainability. But then it also shows me the appreciation for when you find quality products, when you find quality brands and people who have that consciousness for the environment. Why not love fashion the right way?
Right, right, right. And I think, you know, fashion is meant to be about style, which doesn't need to include a ton of clothes. It's really about how you style them and how you wear them and how you like express yourself with them. It doesn't need to be about a quantity, but so often that's kind of where our brain goes, which is exactly. It's actually a good invitation for us to, you know.
I know it's coming up.
What is?
Fashion Week is coming up.
Yeah. I know. I just went to a panel at WeWork about the fashion industry, and they were asking about like how the fashion industry is representing plus size models, how they're representing sustainability, and how they're representing people of color. And kind of
fascinating.
It was very interesting. Some stuff I didn't know, like Burberry. I will say Burberry is probably my favorite designer brand out there, or one of my top 3. I love the plaid. And telling me this article about how Burberry, you know, some of their clothes didn't sell or something, or it was manufactured wrong. I don't know. They burned it. They straight up.
I know.
I was floored, because I think part of the sustainability thing is it's like, well, if you're buying a designer thing, you only buy 1 or 2 a year. Sure. You wear those for forever. That's a lot different than buying like something from H&M, which is surely being made in a very poor working condition. Totally. So I thought I was kind of safe. No, apparently not.
And it's crazy because you hear something like that, and at least in my mind, it's like, donate it. Oh my God.
Anything. Oh my God. Right. Like
some of the political issues with fashion that happened last year were burnt. And I was like, oh, give them to someone who needs them. They don't care what the story is, because I'm very much about where did the piece come from. But I also understand that we live in a crisis where people are, you know, some of these luxuries, they're not there. So when I heard that, you know, they're burning things, they're throwing them out, they're never supporting it. It's like, oh, that's your like, you know, hubris getting in the way. So yeah, I know.
Yeah. Oh, it is
hard.
Not fun. Well, I mean, 2 things. I love your journey. Thank you for sharing it all with us. And, you know, I love looking back at points in my life, especially the points where I just really felt lost, and being able to now connect the dots about how those points led me to exactly where I am now. And do you feel like that when you look back at all the things you've experienced?
It is. I can't help but laugh a little bit, like, okay, like I'm not even going to bring religion, but just even knowing a higher power or manifestation is, there's a reason, there's a goal, there's a road. You kind of go like, okay, I guess I see it now. But it is a really nice feeling knowing that if you can take something that necessarily is bad or wasn't planned and mold it into something that could be like, well, let's see what this does. Where could this take me? The beauty of it is really just in the journey alone. I've had some great wins this year that would never, and I'm saying never, would have happened had I stayed in Oz, had I stayed on the path I was. And I just laugh because it's like, don't ever question failure. Don't ever, not question it, but don't ever think failure is the end. It could be the beginning of something. And my mom was saying, she's like, you're so wise now. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to show people that these chapters open and close for reasons we might not know.
Right.
But if we listen to them, if we feel into why this is happening, you could see that the dots could connect in a totally different way. So
Chills. I love that. Yeah, I completely agree. And I love your mentality and, everything that you're doing to make things even better for you than you probably could have originally imagined when you started this. And the other thing I really love about what you're doing is really showing that, no effort is too small. And I think when I was studying sustainability, I remember one of the things that would like depress me, frankly, I like was a vegetarian for sustainable reasons, and I would really try to, not have waste and stuff like that. Like I would try to limit how much trash I had in my apartment. But then you read about these statistics about how it's great as consumers that we want to help, but 92% or whatever of greenhouse gas emissions are by corporations. And so, it's nice that I'm like not eating a cheeseburger, but it can feel really discouraging. So,
it can.
I love that you're using this community. You do have a big platform. You do have a big voice. You do have people listening to you, and you're proving that, I'm going to get emotional. I'm so
oh my
God, no. But just like one person, you can change a life. And all it does take is one person to make a domino effect to change everyone. So I love that you're, optimistic and really fighting for that.
No, and I appreciate that. Now, my last little comment is the one win that actually really like set me up for this, like, don't listen to it, was I was in Bali. I was at a hotel and they kept giving me a plastic straw every single morning. And I was like, no, it's okay. I don't need it. It was a little bit of a language barrier, so I would just put it in the side, and I knew it was going to waste. But then I left the hotel, and then my friend who was staying there messaged me. She's like, I just wanted to let you know they moved to all paper. And I was like, so that's one person who has an effect. But if one person believed that they could do it, that's one times however many are in the world.
Right.
The demand will change. The corporations will see it. I had friends who stomped up to Nestle this past year in a giant monster made of plastic bags to showcase that one person times a million billion have a huge effect. And if we can just shift the perspective of what we need versus what the industry tells us we need, change will happen. And it was one of those where I was like, I did that. And I will say I did that because...
Oh my God, I would never stop talking about that.
It's one of those where I actually do use it as an example when someone says the world's too big, there's too many people who don't care. I use that because I'm like, it only takes one person to care though.
Yeah.
So,
okay, I have just a few kind of lightning questions for you.
Sure.
What do you do? What's your go-to when you have a day or something happens and things are going wrong? How do you get through that?
I love being outside in nature.
Go outside.
I do. I go outside. If it's a nice day, I love just seriously sitting, closing my eyes, listening to the sounds, deep breathing. I know it sounds hippy-dippy, but there is something to be said with just being with your breath, because this actually happened a few days ago. I was not having a good day. I was feeling it happens, ebbs and flows. I was feeling very like, what is the point? I saw a lot of statistics again about what I was doing. And so I just put on beautiful music, sat outside, and just took a moment to just be and to just, do something I love. And that's something I love. So if it for you is to, get in the car and go for a drive, keep the AC off. But yes, don't waste gas. But something to just get me back into my right state of mind. Yoga is a big practice for me. The sensations of just feeling into my body really, really make me just feel present. So I've been really leaning into those lately because it is overwhelming at times when you see maybe what's going on with our elections and things, and you're like, okay. So I just try to really look to nature. I was all about going to the beach and just being in the salt water and seeing the blue ocean. There's a lot of therapy that comes from the color blue. But I live in Ohio and we have a lot of green. So I've adapted. I've adapted.
What are you most proud of in your business so far?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I am most proud of the fact that even if someone doesn't reach out to me, people are still being affected by what I've been doing. So being just a very conversational piece in this whole topic, I think has been really, really, really successful. I've had people who I've not even spoken to message me, go like, I brought my reusable bag to the grocery store today. I thought of you. And I'm like, That is a massive win. Like,
Yeah.
I love seeing those tiny little changes people are making. Or, you know, I love it when people engage back with me. If I put a question up on someone and people genuinely answer the question or tell me something that's like, ugh, I was having such a bad day, I got a, you know, plastic, whatever. I'm like, you know what? It happens. We're all in this together. So I love creating this community of people who actually are wanting to make the change. And that's the whole point I decided to transition. So I feel like that's my biggest success, is connecting with people who have that intrigue or interest, but maybe aren't sure how, so we can do it together.
That's an awesome one. Do you have a book or podcast that is a go-to for you for business or just motivation otherwise?
Oh, this is something I'm really wanting to do better myself. I spend a lot of time reading books focused around what I'm talking about, just so I'm more educated. One of my favorite books, and I've read it 4 times because I've been in transition 4 times, is The Alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that book because it talks about so much of the journey and the unforeseen anything that comes with it. And
Right.
I think when you can read a book or read something that relates to what you're doing is very, very positive. My goal this year was to read 12 books, and I'm up to 5. So I will hopefully have an answer for you right now. But I think just...
The Alchemist is a great one.
It's a great book. I'm not too much into podcasts other than the ones I interact with, like Biggest Vision and some to do with sustainability. There's a girl I follow, Camilla Shane. She has great conversations around it. But I think just find something that you are relating to and let that be another person in the room that you can have that conversation with, you know?
Yeah. Great. Good advice.
So it's something I'm trying to delve more into, as well as podcasts and people in that community. So I need to find more.
Awesome. Great. All righty. Well, I know you have a gift for people that are wanting to be a bit more sustainable when they travel. Do you want to tell people where they can find that and what it is?
Absolutely. So one of the things I've done now is I've tried to give people advice on how to, you know, go to the grocery store more sustainable and try to make these changes. And so I wanted to share my 5 secrets to sustainable travel. And it can be found on my website, and it comes right to your inbox when you sign up. And I think it's not what people would assume. There's some of the, you know, more obvious ones, like bring a reusable bottle, but some of the other ones I've tested out and done myself, and now I do every time I travel. And it's just a little win because you know that you're making the effort. And I would love for people to feel like it's not this massive hill they have to climb. And some of these tips really aren't all that different from their normal routine. So I want people to actually take these when they travel with them. And I would love for people to be able to do that. So you can find that now on my website and sustainablyamee.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Aimee, for sharing your story and your vision and your motivation and being vulnerable. It was incredible hearing from you. And I know that everyone's going to enjoy this as much as I do. And congratulations on your year anniversary.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be able to talk about this. But like we said before, it's a very authentic, vulnerable journey. So I want people to understand that it's never too late to change.
Amazing. Love it. All right, visionaries. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Go check out her plastic-free tips, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.